So, here we are again.
Should we just do an agenda check?
Yeah, so we have a few announcements. We have practical energy solutions, and we have getting ready for the 29th of October. That's unless someone's got something. Fine. So the announcements I have is that Lansdowne is hot to trot on, ready for 100, and probably going to pass it within a month or so. And I spent Sunday afternoon in Concord, Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania, which is somewhere between 452 and 322, east of the of Route 1, but God knows where I was. They're just beginning, but I told them sort of how we'd done it and encouraged them and sent them materials, and who else? And the doctors.
And what's their neighboring township?
Oh yes, they're going to work with Bethel Township.
Which has an EAC.
Which has an EAC, but only 7,000 residents.
Wow.
So, and Concord has 17,000. It's a lot of open space.
Yeah, yes.
Good, lots of places to put solar panels.
Yes. Great way to think about it.
Open space.
And so we know from Dan, from Ruth, who had a wonderful rejoinder, that the docs have come on board, which is good, because now maybe mainline health will be positive.
Yeah, they're already doing some things. I was over there
yes.
for a conference a couple weeks ago, and we went around the atrium, and they have a green roof in the middle of the atrium.
Mainline Health?
Yeah,
Oh.
Bryn Mawr Hospital.
Oh,
And they're already doing things.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be possible. Any other announcements? I did, what's it called? Make a reservation for the Chester County Solar, or whatever it is, on the 16th, and interestingly enough, Central Baptist Church is on the tour, so I think there's some of it is going to be more towards us, and we won't have to go to East Japip necessarily.
That's on the 16th?
16th.
That's not a Saturday?
Well, whatever day it is.
Because I thought it was a weekend.
When you
19th is
retire.
Saturday.
16th of October.
October? October?
Yeah.
Yeah, 19th is a Wednesday.
Oh, well, it's not a Wednesday,
Okay.
so it must be the 19th.
Probably the 19th.
Night, yes,
Being retired, I never know what day it is unless I look at a calendar.
That's
yeah. Yeah, I have that.
Well, it's good, but it's not. My software for making posters is too old for my computer. So Jane Galley, who is a professional and has lots of software, as a favor, she's making an electronic version of a flyer for the 2 days.
Oh, terrific.
And it's got our banner, and it's got what it is and who we are and where it is. And hopefully I'm going to get a final version of it tonight.
And we'll do, that'll be just sort of a 11:30.
Yeah, just to,
Okay.
that can
Oh, how
be
great.
sent to everybody in their club. So any other announcements or issues before we go to energy person? Okay, so we know we put the RFP, and we know that,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
just a minor point.
Yeah.
That we have a group that is discussing how to build connections with people in Chester to explore a Ready for 100 campaign there. And there's a group of longtime community leaders that some of our volunteers, are connected with, so we're trying to build connections. But if anybody has, contacts in Chester that are, active in community type activity and might be interested, if you're.
My contacts, I'm sure, are dead. I haven't been in Chester
nice.
since 1995, so
Well,
maybe
I'm-
we're talking
I'm-
25
I
years.
might have
You
them.
might.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Are the Bernardine Franciscans nuns still down there?
Oh, I don't know.
They
I don't
were
know about the nuns.
dynamite group.
There's an environmental group that I'm actually reaching out to.
Oh,
Yeah.
With
Good. Well,
Justine.
work-related stuff.
With Justine.
No, it's with Mike.
Ewell.
Yeah.
No, he's a known quantity. I guess we were looking for
Yeah.
additional.
Right. Yeah, I'm reaching, because he's really connected to the community, and that's what, because we're going to do some air quality testing down there.
Good.
So it was just looking for people to support the RF 100
Well,
folks?
I mean, we're kind of not at the point of having a broad community engagement effort. It's sort of pulling together a few people who are in community leadership roles to just talk about, how this might be something that the community would want to explore.
Anybody at Widener?
Swarthmore and Widener. Swarthmore is really.
Yeah, we have,
they
we are in
It's C4, that group.
They have that.
Those guys are, and Widener is not as active. The Swarthmore students are, I think it's in their DNA to be activists, but Widener certainly would be like, and Newman College.
Oh,
Good
Newman College.
idea.
Mhm.
That's local students.
Yes.
And I have contacts there,
Oh, excellent.
and the nuns are there.
Okay, well then,
And know that the political situation in Chester is a minefield. I could, not here, but I could tell, when I was there for 5 years building community gardens, the politics were fascinating.
Frustrating also.
Well, yeah, there were
I think
100
fascinating
there were
is a euphemism.
110 churches in Chester for a population of 30,000.
Wow.
And the universal message was, that's devil's work if you vote. That's how it stayed a Republican stronghold.
Wow.
well, those times have changed.
On that note,
Hopefully, but I'm not so sure after we went, Ruth, you and I went to that meeting in Swarthmore, there's still tremendous conflicts.
on that note,
Yeah,
Immaculata
that was money
College,
driven.
is that a,
That's in Malvern.
Yeah.
but that's not Chester?
No, it's Chester
No.
County.
That's
but-
Chester
County.
County.
Well,
We're talking about the city of Chester.
Crozier?
Crozier, Chester.
Do you have any,
Yeah.
do you have, could
I
you
know
be a
people
stakeholder?
there too, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and they've had,
Crazy if they didn't have.
now, it goes back probably to when you were there, they had serious, Chester Crozier had serious problems with their incineration, and it was linked then to asthma in the community, and they got spanked.
And
So-
they bought the Catholic hospital that the Bernardine Franciscan nuns wrote.
Misericordia, was that?
Whatever, it was right there on Ninth
Right,
Street.
yeah,
And
I
the
know
next
where it
thing
is,
you knew,
yeah.
they put all the mental patients in there, threw the nuns out, and closed it down, so that whole end of town had no hospital. Do you know there was no supermarket in the 90s when I worked in Chester?
That's
You know, I'm
surprising.
feeling like our video audience may want us to move on to our agenda.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. It's recorded.
Anyhow.
Anyhow, let's get to the serious business. So, we wrote an RFP, Practical Energy Solutions answered it along with 3 others. And you all had some questions. Did review equal face-to-face?
Right.
So you wrote a letter, they wrote back. It still wasn't clear in my mind. So I picked up the telephone and called Diane Herron. And we had a conversation on Monday morning. The bottom line is we have a not to exceed figure of $38,500. There are at every step, the end of every step, there is a face-to-face meeting. It may not be 2 people, it may be 1 person. And I explained to her a little the work we had done so far, which began to make a difference in her mind. We are not Joe Schlumps who don't know anything, who are sitting there waiting for them to save us. Told her we were going to start with some educational sessions, sensitizing her, whatever. One of the big things, because I know one of the big things you wanted was more one-on-one talks with stakeholders. In Westchester, they have not a script, but guidelines, and the members of their green team, that's not what they're called, they literally do the follow-up. And are asking what do you like about it, what are the blocks, what are some of the other things, which will bring the cost down. They will do, let me find out which letter I'm working with. One of the ways they have accommodated is that if they have stakeholders, they will do them back to back. So they're only coming here for X amount of time. And some of it may include telephones, so that's how we're keeping the cost down. She very much agreed that 2 face-to-face stakeholders was better than 1, so we agreed on that. And she's charging for step 5, which is develop educational and outreach materials. She's got a cost of $1,500. The title of it would be "We're Headed for a Clean and Prosperous Future." In fact, she's got sort of a logo for each one. Step 1 is what's your community impact. Step 2 is what's at stake. Step 3 and 4 is opportunity abounds. Step 5 is we're headed towards a clean and prosperous future, and that they're going to provide ongoing examples of strategies so the community continue to follow the township's progress and will not be taken by surprise when the final plan is produced. So we looked at it and played with it, and we came to this figure of not to exceed $38,500. I took that to Steve last night. Steve took a deep breath and said, that's good. It's 10% higher than what they initially proposed, but we've got more input in here. And what I need from you guys is consensus. I will then send the figure to Steve. Steve will write the resolution, and it will definitely, he will try to get it on the agenda for the 21st. The township has not presented the first budget. They had quite a discussion last night. The commissioners want 3 different budgets given to them. You should see Bill White's face. No tax increase, and then I don't want to label it, letting people go and giving up services tax proposal. So Bill knows about this. It's on the proposed budget proposal for 2020 as yet unfunded projects.
Can you remind me what we pay in utilities just for the township building per year?
We pay $90,000.
Pico thinks we could cut that by 1/3.
We could save $30,000.
So your payback period on this proposal is 1 year. Well, I'm waving my hands. But I mean, the point is, this is an investment to reduce cost over time for the township.
So
and I'd suggest that's how
you've
how
led
we
right
sell it.
into it. Within the next week, please send Robin or myself, and we'll share it, your best ideas that we need to make this argument with the commissioners as to why we should do that. And there's one of them. As an ancillary conversation with
For
Bob.
this audience, I had to say.
Where he suggests that as part of this process, when it's the right time, they somehow, an RFP is developed to do the remediation, the mitigation in this building, and the payment would be this, I found this very interesting, half of the first year's savings. So whoever does it, the more he mitigates, the more he saves, the more he gets half of it. And Bob is the one who suggested it. So.
It's a performance contract.
It's a performance contract. And they, Steve Norsini was very comfortable with a not to exceed, as was Diane. Actually, she's the one who suggested it. But everywhere we know what we want, but she said, if you guys are really doing a real job and the people are embracing it, then we lop off a program here or there to bring it down. So, what do you think?
Well, I think we should go ahead with them. I think that they responded to what the questions that we've asked. Took us twice to ask them about review, but we gave them a very short time. I mean, we met on Monday. We wanted the answer back on Friday. Actually, we met on Tuesday.
We met on Tuesday. It went to them Wednesday morning, and we asked for an answer
back on Friday. So.
Well, the kind of responsiveness is good.
Yeah.
Hopefully they will continue
And
to
I
be like
was
that.
able to give I was trying to get her email. So, well, turns out they have a new telephone system, and I couldn't get through it. So when she finally called me, after we talked a while, I said, could I give you a little feedback? And she said, yes. I said, I don't know what's with your telephone system, because they had not gotten the telephone call. 2 days later, they discovered the message, and I said, you've got to say, if you know who you want to talk to, dial the directory, and it says, you do that, and it says, there isn't one. And she said, thank you very much. We wondered why the phone was quiet.
Oh,
Lord.
So, I mean.
They should give us a rebate.
And from what she said, I got the sense, what I heard her say was, we're really excited about the possibility of working with Radnor Township.
Great.
She's been to the last 2 commissioners' meetings, she might not be so.
Eat those words.
Sarah, that's great. You did a 24-hour turnaround
Well, it's
of this,
just-
and it's great, because you lopped off about $1,000 and $1,030 from, if you just add on in their letter,
Right.
the added costs.
And
of
we
your
may
original.
drop the figure for
Right.
the one-on-ones if
Yeah.
they're people we feel comfortable picking up the phone and talking to whomever and trying to understand what
Yeah.
their resistance is. And she affirmed what you had said, which is sometimes with smaller groups, they'll open up more. So we got 2
I didn't say that.
scheduled, well, somebody did here.
Ruth Mooney actually thought up the one-on-one where by email, you brought that up.
Well,
Yeah.
whatever, I can't keep track of it that way.
But I think my email critique of their added costs basically was the original proposal for $32,500, whatever.
750.
Yeah, $750. Covered communication with the stakeholders at all of these meetings, including the reviews, presentations, whatever they were. So I think whatever additional costs at those steps, I interpreted really what we wanted was more general public communication. And as my marketing director daughter tells me, keep it simple, stupid.
Right.
So I had sometimes a hard time justifying some of the larger costs in those steps, putting together a slide set, a website, whatever, making very clear points. And we're going to have to kind of think about those, I think, in the next month or so, just what we want to say to the public. I mean, very simple stuff. So, but you brought it down 1,030, so fine, that's great.
Well, and all the one-to-one meetings will be videoed.
Yes.
So they'll all be available to the public. And she does talk about
The one-to-ones or the focus group meetings?
all meetings will be, no, the focus meetings might not be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I would
the-
imagine there would be.
Oh, so
The
our
end of
meetings
the
with
step,
them.
the end of the steps meetings
Okay, all right.
will be videoed.
Right.
And she talks about, as part of this step, which is stakeholders, as long as the township agrees, we will also ask community members to provide feedback via an online communication tool, example, the township website, so your taxpayers can participate in the process.
That's great.
I think that there's an advantage here in that she's now the mayor of Westchester, but she also has her foot in the other camp of getting this across to Westchester and the other 6 communities.
And they're a little ahead of us, so she's.
Well, they are ahead of us.
So much she's learning them.
So
On the job.
she's the one who said, well, Sarah, if you've got this really great committee, perhaps we can save $1,250, some of $1,250
Mhm.
by members of the team picking a couple of the institutions, whatever you want to call them, and asking the questions. And that doesn't cost anything. And that's apparently what they're doing in Westchester to keep the cost down, because they have a much bigger area.
Well, at the same time, I guess I'm feeling more comfortable that, that we have the scope within the proposal to do the kind of one-on-ones and sort of deeper dive into major stakeholders that will really make this, tailored to Radnor in a meaningful way. Because I guess that's what I've been a little concerned about, is it would be, it might be a little too superficial if we were just pulling people into stakeholder groupings and, just talk platitudes about, clean energy is nice, sort of thing. So I'm much more comfortable with the opportunity to
Good.
go a little deeper.
Anybody else have something they want to say about it? What's your direction to me?
I endorse the 38,500.
Okay?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
right. Right.
I will send Steve the email tonight so he'll get it tomorrow.
Right, we're missing Abby or Becca.
Well, they don't get home from school till 6 o'clock.
Right. I
So-
mean, we could just check in with them
Right.
before you send.
And I did, in the course of the conversation, I described all of you and the fact that we have the youth in the high school as part of the team. I think she was quite surprised we didn't have a Chamber of Commerce.
Oh,
So that's stuff she's going to learn.
yeah.
And I do realize that we have to ask for it, and then the township doesn't pass the budget till December, so something down the track is, whatever happened to Earth Day 2020? It may have to slip. But hey, if we get a good plan, it doesn't matter. All right, that part of it's done.
And Steve will do the presentation at the.
Steve prepares the resolution. He'll want us there to, with a very good possibility of selling it. This is why we chose them, this is why, and again, I've been thinking about it, obviously. This is not a one-off project or one ward, this is the future. This is everybody, business, kids, residents, whatever. And it's going to come, not that it's directly in line, but there's going to be real discussion during the budget process on trash and recycling, which is all of a piece of it, because by the end of July, the township had incurred $246,000 overage on the trash collection for the year. So there's going to be a lot of discussion. Whether they'll listen or not, I don't know.
So, Sarah, the politics of this, we're presenting it to the board as the board is on the
21st.
21st. And then
Well,
it really doesn't
hopefully,
change until the first of the year.
well, that's what I need to have another pillow talk with Steve and
Yeah.
say, and Bob, and how do we maneuver this? I still have a slightly tight stomach until the 22nd, but that's all right, because the commissioners are, They are what they are.
But the discussion of the budget is on the 21st.
They're gonna-
but
the
decision
management-
will be when?
Management is going to present 3 budgets, apparently, on the 21st. The no tax, which, what are the implications of no tax? A tax increase, which they don't like to do, and
Austerity.
thank you, you saved me from revealing the person's name, who you probably all know, so he shall remain nameless.
Well, so Sarah, but the decision would actually be by what date? They
That
would
is
have to pass
something
it.
I need, they have, the budget has to be passed by law. December 9th.
And the meeting on the 21st is at what time?
It starts at 6:30.
Okay.
I advise you to get to radnor.org and look under government, and then there's a thing that says agendas, and look at the agenda to find out what time. Not, you'll never know the time, but do they have 6 things before it? Do you see anywhere where they might argue? So, I mean, last night, the commissioners didn't start the meeting until 10 of 7. I don't know what they were discussing. They're in executive session first. So, but the 21st, and then on the 28th, they're having a special meeting to discuss the budget. That's the next
That's a-
Monday night.
That's an open public meeting.
They're all public meetings. And then the 18th of November, they're having a special meeting. They will be discussing the budget from the 21st on. It's quite a process.
Just on that point, we sent out a newsletter to the broader
Yes.
Ready for 100 list in Radnor, encouraging people to come on the 21st,
Yes.
but should they also be encouraged to come on the 28th and November date?
Well, I want to send out, I mean, I need somebody who can read. It's sort of an aside, but it's not. I spent 3 hours transferring handwritten email addresses into the computer today. So we now have 276 on the mailing list. But there are a few I can't figure out, so you've got good eyes. But we have 276. But when I get the flyer from Jane, I can send that out to encourage them to
Yeah.
send other people, and I will remind them. But in the meantime, I'll talk to Steve.
But I mean, so we want to encourage them to come to the educational events, but
Right.
I'm also thinking, do we need to also let them know how the 21st went?
Goes, yes,
And it would
yes.
be helpful for them to show some support on the
Right.
28th.
Well, because we can also, how it goes on the 21st, we can ask them to please communicate with their commissioners.
Yes.
Fanny's in the seat tends to tip them. Because if there are 30 people there, which is what we usually get from Garrett Hill when we've got a big issue, they're pretty embarrassed to say to all those people, no, we don't like your idea. They tend to soften. But this is an election, and this is,
So, Sarah, there was a write-up that you sent out just before the meeting. Did you write that up? Because it was excellent, I thought. It was just a big picture summary of what's going on.
no, I
Is this email?
Yeah, it was an email that
Yeah.
came out just this afternoon.
I'm not aware, well, I
we're
did
over
write the
in Radnor.
newsletter and you got it.
Right, okay.
It was the newsletter, Robin wrote it.
Okay, yeah.
Oh. it
Oh,
was
the
just-
township newsletter.
It was just an update. You're
Yeah.
talking about the,
You know, it was the update, and
I should have written
by
my.
the, sort of in line with that.
Readings Radnor Ready for 100.
oh, yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one.
that
It's
thing,
just
I
that
just
it
read
only
that, yeah.
mentioned the 21st, it didn't mention the other dates.
No, because we don't know if you did or didn't get your Radnor news.
It doesn't have the time for the residential energy efficiency meeting.
Right.
Tuesday the 29th.
Yes, I noticed that.
Mm.
Just so, can I put my name on that so I see your stuff?
Yeah, I noticed.
And I read in the Radnor News this very good article on renewable energy, make the switch.
Yeah, I just saw that too. It was really
It was
simplified and
Written by
different somebody.
Jennifer Cox for Tridifferent EAC.
Right?
So here's another way for us to communicate, which is, this is not put out by Radnor. This is put out by the MAPS people.
Well, can we take a picture of that and
I
send it
think we
out?
could get, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
rip it right out of there.
It's
Sitting on my
it's
kitchen
really
table
good.
right now.
It's really good. And let me find it. Have you all gotten your electric bill? Or do you get an electric bill?
Yes.
Because this is pretty fascinating. This is a software program that I know Steve Clark's talked about it, that Pico has written, and you go in, and if you don't have an account, you register and get an account. And then it asks you a series of questions. You live in a house, in a condo, how many people live there? What's your type of heat? Do you use LED bulbs? Do you have a fireplace and burn it? Blah, blah, blah. And then it looks at your energy generation for a year, and it tells you where your maximum energy use is. It's pretty interesting. Just as another way for people to go, oh, I hadn't thought of that. So I'm going to talk to Steve Clark and Michael Schneller about this, because this whole thing is on sealing gaps, installing tight fit insulating drapes, schedule service, replace your filters, keep your fireplace damp or closed unless a fire is burning. It's pretty interesting. It came this month.
And Michael can talk about that on the 29th.
Michael can talk about that on the 20th.
So, I'm sorry to be out of it, but in preparation for the October 21st meeting, there's going to be a
29th.
21st.
Oh, 21st,
Yeah.
all right.
We're going to send out an email to 200 people, and will there be already a pre-prepared flyer in there that we have?
Well, there's a statement in the one that Robin.
Wait, which are we talking?
This is the
about?
October
21st.
21st.
The 21st is the commissioners meeting, right?
Yes.
That's right, that's the
Yeah.
critical one where you.
And that's
we need
in the
people there.
newsletter that you got today that
Right.
also went to 276
Okay, good.
people, or
Okay.
275
You
others.
could-
Yeah, because there was a BCC and I thought there were a lot more names on there.
No, well,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
polite way
Yeah,
is I send it to myself and I blind copy it to 275 other people.
Right.
So just Dan receives it. There's
Yes.
nothing in my mind, or remember Katrina
Yeah.
when we started the garden,
okay.
there's nothing really more irritating to some people.
And you wrote the newsletter?
Robin wrote
Robin
the
Wrote it,
newsletter.
okay, excellent.
So
Okay, great.
275 people received it, including myself,
Uh-huh,
but they
Yep.
think it went directly to them.
yes.
So I actually forwarded yours to the president of our garden club and said, could we send this to our mailing list? And she sent it out right away to the mailing list and said,
Great.
please come and support Ruth and, come on the 21st. And,
Great.
Oh, is the Gretchen Conservancy leadership on the list? They are, aren't they?
Lorna Atkinson is,
Okay.
but I'll make sure, I'll double check that and make sure. And that is not only for the 21st, but for the 29th, which is the educational
Yeah.
session.
Mm-hmm.
We want to send it to, and that can be just the flyer, to any group. I'm going to send it to you. Any group that you're associated with, please send it to them.
So this is within Radnor, within Radnor?
Well, yeah, but some of the St. David's Church people bridge the line, and
Okay.
some of the Bryn Mawr Press people bridge the line. It really doesn't matter.
I think, in terms of having a seats, you know, people in the chairs,
Yep.
it doesn't really
Yeah,
matter so
true.
much. But if you get up to speak, then, you know, you should say where you're from, and I think it carries more weight if you're from Radnor Township.
Wait, for the 29th, you mean for the 21st? For the 21st, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
you always say your name and your address.
Okay, yeah.
So I have a question about the 21st and its process, and I apologize if it should be obvious, but, so Steve Norsini's going to prepare a resolution, which is to say that in response to the resolution, the green team has run a sources selected, as down selected to this contractor
And
at this,
all, and
at this
it-
price. Go ahead, I'm
Right,
sorry.
and he will give the price of each respondent to the RFP. So he
Okay.
will give 4, and the one we're choosing, and it'll be a point, the plus point,
Mhm.
is that we've chosen the lowest bidder.
So the first part of it is he's sort of reporting back, so it's for information for
And
the
he's
commissioners.
asking the commissioners to accept.
And then, but it is also for decision. So on the 21st, the objective is, he's gonna try to get the commissioners, or a majority of the commissioners, to approve this as an expense.
And all, as
Something
Bill
to do.
Spengler would say, it only takes 4 votes.
Yeah.
Well, approve it as an expense to incorporate into the proposed budget.
Into the proposed budget.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
all
it
right.
won't give the money for it, it'll give it in principle.
It'll be incorporated into
Subject
the
to further-
proposed budget to be
Incorporated
then.
into-
Subject to the budgeting process.
Right.
It's to include it as a line item.
Right.
Okay, all right. So there is somewhat of a decision on it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And if, and I think we,
Because I'm trying to picture what that looks like and what people should come prepared to
well,
say.
so commissioners may ask a question, why do you want to do this?
And the response back would be, we're doing this in response to a resolution that the commissioners passed.
And
Here's an action plan to fulfill what you asked us to
and to
agree do.
facilitate, so it's very forward
I
thinking.
mean, I wouldn't say it that way, obviously, be very respectful, but I
Yeah.
mean,
But it's very forward-thinking for the benefit of every entity in Radnor Township.
And can we get some of the youth, the high school, the 18-year-old high schooler?
I will, that's a
Ooh,
very
that'd be
good
a great
question.
idea.
Yeah.
That would be-
Well, and when we were.
Because that, I mean, that, you know,
Yeah.
without a doubt it'll impact them and their
we have some
voters.
folks that couldn't make it, but we have some folks on the team that could,
Yeah.
are high school.
Becca and Ally.
Yeah,
But it's
and they
many
have
of
the-
their friends
Yeah, they
who
have
are
the-
18.
The Radnor.
Or
Wow,
they
yeah.
don't have to
Will
be
30.
18.
But it
Well-
won't hurt because they're voters if they're 18.
No, but
Well done. And they're gonna inherit the 2050 that we leave behind.
Yes, they are.
We're all gonna be
God
pushing
willing,
up
that
daisies.
it's, yeah, they're all still here.
So that means it goes to the League of Women Voters. And I asked Roberta to help with some of the 18-year-old voters that she knows, because she works with them really tightly.
Well, there were 2 young ladies who came to the Radnor Fall Festival who
Yes.
were from Villanova.
Yes.
We have them on the list.
And we just can't figure out.
Oh, I think it's,
Here, wait.
I think
Give me
it's
their
pretty.
names.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
We have the address.
Okay, I could take care of this really quickly.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Jocelyn. All right.
So, and I talked to them and I said, you know, it's really important when we present this to the commissioners that we have people there, that they really respond if there are a lot of people, and they really respond to young people.
Mhm.
And they were both very surprised at that. And I said, no, it's really important. So I think that if we contact them, remind them this is coming up, we hope you'll be there. Bring your friends, and they're both on the, I think, in the environmental committee at. I guess it's-
Junior, Jocelyn's a junior. CSC. Start with
And
CSC.
the trouble with those
Computer
signing
science.
lists are
What's
they're
that?
writing in their own
Computer
handwriting.
science, maybe?
Maybe.
CSC,
Okay.
SC would be
Is
science.
that, how many
Okay.
Maybe.
awards is Villanova in?
And let's see.
They're in 7, and parts of them are in 4.
Okay. Well, I was just
Working
thinking,
two as well?
I mean,
Not in 2?
No, that's no.
Well, some of them live off campus.
Yeah,
So-
that's true. Well, I was just thinking, I mean, it would, of course, it would be perfect to have them there, but if they couldn't attend, you know, second best would be for them to call the commissioner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, so that was something that the president of the garden club asked me, would it be beneficial if the club wrote a letter?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think as many letters as they get, emails they get, phone calls they get, they need to hear from the constituents as to what they're doing.
So my question is, if we're gonna have a series of meetings, so the 21st, 28th, 9th, whatever, we're not going to be able to make this kind of push for every meeting. I mean, people just won't come, they'll get weary. So is the 21st the meeting?
I think it's the most important
It'll
meeting.
keep it
Okay.
alive. The 21st will keep it alive.
Okay.
And the commissioners will be receiving this electronic announcement of the meetings. And I know I'm gonna write Lisa, my brain is dead, Jack Larkin, Luke Clark. I know those three I'm going to write. I would not dare write Booker.
Maybe
That's
he'll
on
be sick
television,
that
yeah.
night.
There are a couple of commissioners I would not write.
Sarah, what's the chance of the can getting kicked down the road
I have
at this
no idea.
21st meeting? I mean, have you seen in previous budget meetings, things getting kicked down the road?
No, because usually it's for a sewer or a culvert or a
Pretty,
playground, or it's usually infrastructure.
so, right, so this being kind of unique, it possibly could be kicked down the.
I don't know.
When you say kick down, you mean they choose not to make a decision
Right.
on that night?
I'm wondering whether, do we even bring up the possibility that we ask for a percentage of this funding and we go look for private donations?
I wouldn't, no, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't
Wouldn't even
offer
bring
it.
it up.
Right
I
now.
would not
right.
offer
But
it.
that's a good idea later on.
Yeah.
That's
I
pocket,
think
right.
we would get some private donations.
I wouldn't
I would entice them
Would
with it,
not
but I would
entice them.
definitely
Alright.
reserve.
You know, and
I
that
don't think
option.
it sounds like a lot of money. I don't think that
I don't
sounds
think
like a
so
lot.
either.
Especially if we
Well,
had
township.
emphasize
for a
energy savings.
$40 million budget.
Yeah.
Right.
It's peanuts.
Right, it
They're
doesn't, you
gonna
know, I
make
mean,
a
there's
big
people in
stink.
this township that could write that check tonight.
Right.
It's not a lot.
Well, and if I mean, it's against the backdrop of what they're overspending on energy just in township facilities. It's-
And we can use this building as an example.
Yes. And I think that's, because that keeps it really tangible and keeps it simple, like your marketing daughter said, you just hold something up that everybody can get their head around. And just a point on I mean, I agree in that we want this to happen, and I think it's great to think of a Plan B and Plan C for funding if this doesn't happen. But at the same time, I'd suggest that in a way it cheapens the idea, right? This is important, and I think we want to hold the commissioners passed the resolution because they thought it was important. And so I think then we need to go to the township and say, you thought this was important, and we've done some diligence, and we found a way to resource this and create an actionable plan to accomplish the resolution that you passed. And I just, I think
Great.
we kind of owe them,
When you're into implementing the plan, that's when you might want to look for community funding. I think at the Willows, they are getting some community funding, are they not? I mean, they have, maybe, I don't want to use that as an
Yeah.
example.
I
but-
wouldn't bring that up.
Well, with 30,000 residents, we're talking about $1.25 per
Right.
Does
resident.
that sound familiar, Katrina?
And right, and what you get with your $1.25 is an actionable plan that allows you to get into a, what is it, a cleaner and more prosperous future that continues to make this township a desirable place to live.
Oh, there's a good one.
There
Which
you are.
affects everybody's
There's
real
your
estate
elevator.
values.
There you are, there's your elevator
Which
speech.
affects everybody's real estate values, which we all try to.
It does, it,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
Does.
it's a feather in Radnor Township's cap.
Yes.
It really,
Yep.
it makes you innovative
And reduces the risk of a tax increase down the road.
Right, because you're putting in place, the plan is putting in place a way to cheaper, cleaner energy for the township.
Showing leadership here. Brad would love to show some leadership.
Guys, do we know stakeholders who are well-known in this township well enough to invite them to the meeting, the October 21st meeting, who are on board with us?
We don't know whether they're on board with us.
Okay, so we have really, okay.
So what I'm doing, because is I'm gonna reach out, I just got the name of the green team leader at Cabrini. I'm gonna reach out to Eastern, I'm gonna reach out to Archbishop Carroll, and I'm gonna use my email address, because that will get attention. And,
Can you contact Liza?
what,
Or is she
Liesl?
still- or Liesl, is she still out?
No, she's still out, but I
Okay.
know who at Villanova, but I'm gonna specifically let them know about this and ask for students who are from Radnor Township.
Great.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good idea.
And then,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That, because there's, I'm sure at all these schools, there's some. I mean, because Eastern and
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
especially Cabrini's
Oh,
a
sure.
local school.
Mhm.
And Harcum, I'm going to try Harcum.
We don't know anybody at Penn Medicine.
I have two contacts because of David Falcone, who's their general counsel. He's given me the names and emails of two people who he thinks would be reached out to become stakeholders.
Okay.
And
Maybe
whoever
premature.
Joe is, the attorney of record for Brandywine, his name just flew out of my head, who I saw last night. I asked him, and he said, I think you would send it to Joe. So I'm assuming the CEO of Brandywine, his first name is Joseph, to reach out, but I don't know that he's a Radnor resident. So, and I know Jack Lynch from Mainline Health I don't think he's a Radnor resident. So,
But they're building.
well, but they'll be a stakeholder, but for the
Yeah.
21st,
Like, is there a PR group within Penn Radnor?
I don't know that would
I don't
be as
think that's-
meaningful as some of Radnor residents.
I think it's the constituents who pay the
Yeah.
taxes.
All right.
And we've got
Probably.
great arguments.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they're not persuaded by them, then
Then,
they pass those.
then, you know,
Right, that's right.
then we start raising them. Okay?
Great.
So, for the 29th, that's the education program.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard from,
I still haven't heard back from John Kelly at Orange Energy Solutions. I spoke with him on the phone and he was gonna check his calendar and I haven't been able to get him to confirm. But he did indicate that this is right up their alley. They have a slide deck they presented at events that Greg Vitale has hosted. And their whole focus is on home performance. And so it's, energy efficiency through getting systems to perform well and plugging leak holes and that kind of thing. They do deep retrofitting. So the idea with them is that Mike's presentation would go first and would be an audit and where are the first opportunities to save money inexpensively. And then the Orange Energy Solutions is focused on, sort of a deeper next step for if there's like a need to replace a roof or that
They
kind
did
of thing,
my
add
house.
insulation.
did they do your house?
Yeah,
So you can give a testimony as to,
right. In fact, I should look at my energy bills, heating bills.
it's,
before and
nothing like
after.
the home team saying, you know, this has really worked for me.
Right.
Well, that would be great if you
Yeah.
have a chance to check
Yeah,
and see.
they've blown in, I mean, I have a 130-year-old house over on North Bellevue, so it didn't have any insulation. They blew in insulation upstairs and created foam all over the walls of the cellar. So I'm sure there's a savings. I just never
Mhm.
cared to look at
Mhm.
it. I should.
So anyway, I think, I'll be trying to get an answer from them right away, and if we have to, we'll scramble and try and find somebody else. And
I'd be
we're-
disappointed if
Pardon?
I'd be disappointed. They came to our church 2 years ago.
No, I'd be disappointed too. The unfortunate thing is that I was in touch with someone else who said he was the right person to do the presentations. And then he said he would check and see if he was gonna be able to do it, and, you know, he kinda didn't respond. And so I finally reached him and he said that, he was gonna have to hand the idea off to somebody else in the office, and then I'm sort of on a new.
The fellow we worked, his last name was Love. That rings a bell.
Well, I mean, I was kind of taking it from them as to who is the right person to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, so, anyway, John Kelly seemed to indicate that he was, you know, used to doing this and that it was
Good.
fine. It was just his availability, so I'm hopeful that he'll come through.
Well, it's good to
I
hear
didn't
that.
realize that the time fell off the message before.
No, I didn't either.
Is it gonna be 7?
7.
Yeah.
Okay.
7 to about 8:30.
Well, we'll be sending a reminder anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
In line with that, the flyer, such as it is, and I encourage Jane to finish it tonight or send me a second draft, has the logo that Becca created for us. And the title of it is, Are You Ready for 100? So I think we've got 2 tape decks available to us. The one that Jim Wiley used and the one that Bill Saby used, plus 3 more slides that I have. They're PowerPoints. So what I'd like to do is have somebody say, oh, I'll take charge of that. And send them the 2 PowerPoints, plus the 3 slides, and try and create about a 4-minute intro as to what is Radnor, what is Ready for 100. And I thought, here I go, volunteering you as our Sierra Club person. You might introduce it by, how did this Ready for 100 come to be? And then one of us can talk about how Ready for 100 came to Radnor. And then a very brief slide, and I know how to get to, because I know that Bill did it for Newtown Township. He was able to get slides of heavy rain, and I know we can get that from the police, and a couple from the downside of Radnor Township near Newtown Square, but still in Radnor. They got rain this summer that they have never, ever had before. And there's about a 1-minute video of this house that was built in the 1790s almost washing away, which is the illustration of climate change is coming to Radnor. The police took a lot of pictures when we had the flood, not in 19, but in 18. When they
So that
were
would be
arrested.
part of the.
So that's part of
slide deck?
a very brief overflow. And if there's someone who would like to do that, I think it'd be a great way to introduce it.
I'll do it. I just want to understand who the audience is. Is this going to be on our website?
This is an audience who's going to be sitting in the chairs on the 29th of October, which will be downstairs, which will be videotaped, so it's available live on Comcast and Verizon right then and there. And the video becomes a YouTube the next day and will be put on the Ready for 100 site.
So it's just to introduce
It's
the
just to-
educational series as this is,
Right.
you know, This is part of
This is what Ready for 100 is
Right.
for those people who either, as Jim Crawford was the chaplain at Episcopal Academy.
I can
My
feel
oldest
the
went
steel
there and
pair of
he said, you
hands.
have to say something 3 times before it goes.
Right.
And that's why you wrote me about Central Baptist is going to do something. St. David's is doing something in
Yeah.
November. Was it a conflict?
About Solarize.
That was
We're gonna
Solarize.
get
Hell
Solarize.
no.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they need to hear it from a variety of sources to,
Right.
to believe it. And the second educational thing, we have a very nice young man, who's younger than I am, named Ethan Martin, who lives on Callanan. And he did a great deal of research before he put solar on his little house. And he's got all the data as to why he did it and what his bills are. So he's going to speak at the second one is, okay, I did this in Radnor. Again, hometown fellow who can just talk very personally about why he made the decision to do solar.
Yeah.
And does anybody know any realtors to talk about resale value?
There's Keith who comes to the
Oh, yeah.
Delco Ready for 100.
I'm not sure he covers this area though.
No, I'm not so sure, but I
mean,
can,
that's another thing.
but I can ask him this Friday.
Okay.
I know it's what he's working on, particularly in media,
Oh,
because
right.
media is really going solar.
Yeah.
Through a
You know what I mean?
PPA
I'm
or
just
how-
thinking of, like, all the naysayers, how can we, but no, other people wanna buy your house because of it.
And I did send you the link today on the storytelling workshop, which might be worth listening to, because if we end up communicating one-on-one with a potential stakeholder, it might help know some of the questions you want to ask. And I did hear a webinar that Michael Mann from Penn State gave, and he talked about the deniers, the skepticals, the, well, maybe, and so the deniers, you thank them for their opinion. The skeptical ones, you say, well, scientists are trained to be skeptical, and they always do research before they come to a conclusion. So I applaud you for wanting to do more research. And that's how you sort of get them to think more. And then you have the people who say, yes, I want to know more. It was a very good webinar. And I don't know whether you guys want me to send you all those links, because they can go on forever, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff that's
That's a
going
good
on.
start.
I'd actually be interested in that, Sarah. Not that I want you to take, hours of your time.
No, but
wording
I'll
stuff,
find it,
but-
I'm sure through Michael Mann I can find out. Did Villanova have Michael Mann?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I have an article that I wrote with him, it's coming out in November.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Wonderful.
On public health.
The impacts of climate change on older adults, and so he did the climate science.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Well, that's relevant.
Well, I can see educational session coming, being developed
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they asked me if I wanted to write with Michael Mann, I'm like, yes!
Twist my arm.
He really is,
He's a nice guy.
he's a really nice guy. So, are we cool?
We're cool.
That's swell. And on that note, the AMA apparently is shifting left.
Yeah, thanks for that message
Yeah.
today.
That helped.
Yeah.
I think it's, there's a push now, and it comes from the feds, that in healthcare, health education, they need to understand, it's called the social determinants. They need to understand that poverty makes you sick, and medical schools now are doing that. So I think that may be driving it, which is exciting.
Yes.
They've been doing it for several years.
Well,
So-
I used to be a standardized patient at Penn. And in their first year, Penn matches each student with a family that lives locally. And they go to their doctor's appointments, they go and eat at their house, they meet with the family so they can begin to understand the context. And I really think a lot of it was pushed because of the USME exams that the seniors have to take before they graduate, which was actually started by the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical School graduates. Doesn't matter whether you graduate as an American from Grenada or you want to come and do internship, whatever. You have to take an exam in order to get licensed in the US, and that's where I first started. A lot of it is language skills and affect, and there are a whole bunch of stories about that. But then the USMLE board sort of gloomed onto it because what they had discovered was the doctors that had good bedside manner, as we would call it, had less malpractice suits than the doctors who were just, never listened. And so they began to develop this exam. Well, the med schools wanted to give it, and they went, no, we give it. So Philadelphia was the first site, and every med student had to come to Philadelphia in their fourth year to graduate. Now they have it in Philadelphia, Chicago, LA, and Dallas. And they began to do the same thing with the DOs. So I worked there for about 5 years. And now the nurses are doing it.
Is it all written or is it
What,
also?
It's
international exam?
a check-off computer exam plus a 14-minute interaction with a patient with the following symptoms.
Okay.
And they're judged on professionalism and compassion and skill set, and there are 4 or 5 qualities. I don't remember what they all are now because I
Wow.
haven't done it for a number of years. And what they discovered was the malpractice suits went down.
Yeah, but the stuff they're reading in med school now
Yes.
gives you hope.
Yes.
I bet.
Like,
I bet.
it's not only how the cell functions, but it's the social piece. It's really, it's very exciting.
And the med schools are not just taking science. They're
Right.
taking people who've been in the humanities. They've
Right.
broadened
Yeah,
their
it's-
look
yeah,
as to
it's
who
hope.
they would accept. There is
So-
hope.
So
So
we're good?
we're good on that.
Next meeting?
Do we need to meet next week, or should we meet after the 21st?
After the 21st.
Okay, so we meet the 22nd,
Right.
Okay, all right.
yes?
Tuesday.
With champagne or a box of Kleenex?
Exactly. It's
Optimistically, and that meeting, the 22nd, will debrief as to where we are and do the final things for the 29th.
Okay.
What flyers do we have that we're gonna put out on the table? We wanna have a sign-in list, an introducer, how are we gonna do this? People
So
ask questions, so we have hand mics. I mean, the nitty-gritty of it, but if you could think of, I'll send the flyer as soon as I get it. Send it to everybody you know. I'd love to see that room be half full
On the 29th.
on the 29th. I'd like to see it on the 21st, but and I'm gonna send the flyer to every commissioner and ask them to send it to their constituent list.
So just for disclosure, so from a scheduling point, I am taking a night class that is on Monday nights, so, yeah, so kind of like what you were saying, I don't know that I know I can't be at all of these events, and I gotta pick through,
Well,
with my.
Do we need to write you a note? No, I'm kidding.
Maybe you need to, maybe a whole.
no, send
So-
your good ideas of the points that, if you can't come on the 21st, send your
I'll send you
idea
some
of the
talking points.
talking points,
Yep.
because you have some really good ones.
Yeah, I think in general for the audience, I've said it already tonight, but I think for this audience, it's gotta be about dollars and cents and how it's gonna make the township a cleaner, more prosperous place. And I would really just suggest that, at least from our committee's standpoint, we angle it that way. And angle it as passed a resolution, we took seriously the mandate to go figure out how to make your resolution actionable. And not that we're off dreaming good ideas and, off by ourselves.
So you're thinking you're gonna make one Monday meeting? Is this the Monday meeting we want him to make?
Well, I
mean,
don't wanna
so
put it
you
that
might-
way.
you
Look,
might
we've got
put
a
an
great
exam.
team, and I'm only one
No,
member of
but-
the team, okay?
But you're a new face, really in front of the commissioners, and that's a good thing. I mean, Sarah, they see Sarah a lot, they've seen some of us a lot.
Not too much.
And-
If you can, but we'll understand.
I'll see what I can do. So Luke Clark used to live on my cul-de-sac, and now
He still lives on your
he's,
cul-de-sac.
well, he's nearby.
Oh.
And so, as you were talking about commissioners, you might reach out to. That's something I'll sign.
If you would
Oh,
reach out,
okay.
and all of you, if you know your commissioner well, reach out to them.
Okay, now my confession, I will be in Spain on the 21st and on the 29th.
Nice.
Wow.
That's too
Well,
bad.
my guilt is
Wow.
You'll only be in Villanova.
That's
Very
that's fantastic.
Sorry to
Enjoy.
be missed, I'm sitting here going, damn, I can't believe it, but.
Well, just send your ideas. 'cause
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
Send
that
your
agenda.
ideas.
I'll do what I can in advance
And
I'll be
talk
reading
to
my email.
people and,
Yeah, get your EPA friends to come sit in the audience.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because hopefully there'll be time for people to ask questions and we can get a good dialogue going. Okay? The 22nd of October.
Yeah, that's our next meeting.
Okay, 6:30. Does Josh Barber, do you know Josh Barber? He was from
Yeah.
Is he really? I don't know a lot of people there.
Thank you. I mean, we
Great.
made another
Yeah.
big step forward.
I'm just thinking.
Yeah. Well, thanks to you.
No, it's not.
Well, it's feeling
You're
it's-
the
I'm thinking
interface.
she's like
Well,
sitting in
I'm
class
just
wondering-
working on
looking at my
that.
phone, wondering.
I've got a really good relationship
No, I hear you.
with Steve and a bank.
Yeah. Good.
I can think about,
Uses.
oh, and some formal
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I think.
Hopefully we're making it easy.